Welcome to episode 650 of Salsidoparanormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm sharing true paranormal stories from the web. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media and other ways to contact me at the podcast page, and that is salsidoparanormal.podbean.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.podbean.com. Always happy to hear from you all, whether you have comments or questions or topic suggestions or accounts of paranormal experiences, whether they're your own or from others that you trust. Happy to either read those or have you join me on the show to talk about them. Thank you all for listening, whether you are here for the live streams on Discord or if you listen to the podcast or YouTube feeds or on the Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. There you can hear replays of 2 episodes of my show every night at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, right before Troubled Minds Radio comes on. And as always, I want to thank Michael Strange, host of Troubled Minds Radio, for having me on the network and putting all my shows up there. If you'd like to support my show, there are different ways to do that. You can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platforms. You can find books I've written, paranormal fiction and nonfiction, over on Amazon, including my most recent book, Salsidoparanormal Experiences, which combines most of my experiences written down for this book, as well as material that I've used in previous shows, but put into the book instead. And so I think that takes care of all those things. Also, you can just sign up for the Patreon page and get 1 extra episode per week whenever possible. Or you can just make one-time donations through PayPal. Support is never expected, but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows, from equipment to research materials to travel expenses in some cases. I think that takes care of everything. So let's get on to the stories here. Just again, a quick reminder, there will be 1 week I take off here pretty soon, but then I'll be back with a new schedule and different arrangement of shows and all that, and hopefully it'll be better. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. So thank you all for your support and understanding as I adjust things to better fit my needs as far as scheduling and all that goes. So, excuse me. All right. This one says, about 12 years ago, I was at a Christmas party for work, which happened to be on my birthday. My cell phone rang, and the caller ID displayed Dad Mobile. My father had passed away 8 years earlier, so I was not expecting a call from that number. Gathering the courage to answer, I heard an unfamiliar man's voice, who apologized, saying he had dialed the wrong number. The call came from my father's work phone, which added to the emotional impact. My husband called the number back to understand what had happened. They discovered that the caller was the man who had taken over my father's job about a year after he passed away. The man was trying to call his daughter's cell phone, but must have accidentally dialed the wrong number, with the phone somehow accessing the speaker's old number stored on the SIM card or phone. Initially, this seemed like the most logical explanation. Later, I remembered that I had changed my cell phone number 3 years after my father's death, making the occurrence feel spooky, but also somewhat comforting. Excuse me, and that's where that one ends. Again, you have devices here that possibly, at least according to the writer there, were manipulated. And it wasn't the voice of her father. It wasn't exactly his spirit calling in a somewhat physical form with a physical voice and everything, but it was the significance of the phone that the call came from, and I guess the fact that the person that had that phone was trying to call their own daughter. I can understand why that would seem important and significant, and maybe like a synchronicity there. So I don't know, but it's amazing how many accounts we find in these shows, how many accounts I find online of strange things happening with devices. And how does that work? That's what I always wonder. How is it the consciousness interacting directly with the phone, altering it somehow in different ways to get things to happen that they want to, or get the things that they want to happen to take place? I don't know, but that's an amazing thing that does pop up here and there. So, but yeah, I think that one, I can understand why that one meant a lot to the person there in that experience. Let's see here. Okay, moving on to this next one. This says, I've never posted on a forum like this before because I've never had a paranormal experience until now. This happened between 8 and 9 p.m. in Poland. While my two sisters, our parents, my 3-year-old nephew, and I were relaxing in the living room. So I guess that means they were in Poland at the time. The boy's father, a soldier, was not present as he was away from home. While playing with his toy truck, my nephew suddenly said, "Lightning hit," despite no storm or rain outside, and no mention of storms on TV or in conversation. When asked what the lightning hit, my nephew responded, "Daddy," and mentioned something about apologizing. But I'm not sure about the exact words. Later, the boy's mother, while on the phone with her husband, mentioned the incident, and he revealed that a storm had been in his area around that time. A lightning strike had hit a building about 20 meters away from where he was, causing a fire, but no one was hurt. This experience spooked me, as it was my first encounter with something seemingly paranormal. I also just remembered another strange incident with my nephew. During a visit to friends, the boy suddenly started crying and said he saw a dark man in the room, even though only children were present. And that's where that one ends. Sounds like he's sensitive in different ways. And to pick up on the storm and everything. And yeah, I don't know what that was, but that's not the first time I've heard of kids being aware of things that are happening in different places, or of being aware of different beings that are around that no one else can apparently see. So that doesn't surprise me that they were able to pick up on that. I would be curious to know, as they got older, if they still had experiences or not. Sometimes when kids may have experiences, a lot of them, or even just a few here and there, and then it seems to stop as they get older, through various factors there. But yeah, the part about the storm and being aware of a storm hitting an area where their father was at, that's really, really wild. That goes back to, I've heard similar accounts of kids, and even in some cases pets, seeming to be aware, animals, dogs and things like that, being aware of when people are coming over, whether it's a parent coming back home or just people that are coming over, especially with the kids more so. They'd say that so-and-so is coming over, grandma or whoever, And then, even though there was not a planned visit, that person would show up. Or even in other cases I've heard of where the kids will say, so and so is going to call, call the house, and they do. So really amazing there how that happens and how often that happens, and so yeah, how that works I have no idea, but that's really makes you think about consciousness and how it's different for kids and how they're able to maybe access more of it, have it expand more. I don't know, but be aware of other consciousness around the world easier. But yeah, I have no idea, but really amazing one there. This one says, my family lives on a reservation in the north of Ontario. While visiting, I decided to take a bush ride with family to a beach at night. My cousin was driving on a pitch black dirt road, only lit by the car's headlights. We all saw a tall, wide, hunched over creature in a cloak, possibly black or gray, hobbling along the road. The area was remote with no houses around, making the presence of the creature unusual. My cousin swerved to avoid the creature, partly from shock. Despite the car's presence, the creature did not react and continued moving as if it didn't notice us. All 6 of us in the car saw the creature, ruling out hallucination. It was around 2 a.m., making it unlikely for a person to be out in the middle of the bush. I later asked relatives who mentioned stories from the area of the reservation. One cousin thought it may have been a bad spirit, while an uncle suggested it might be a person on drugs, although this didn't make sense given the remote location and the creature's appearance. Can anyone explain what we saw? That's an amazing account there. Hooded figures. That's a whole subsection or whole category of sightings. I don't know why those words I want to say those certain words, but anyway, that's a whole class of sightings and whole kind of a topic there in and of itself. And I don't know what that was, but yeah, cloaked figures. That's a whole thing, and it's amazing that it didn't seem to pay attention to them, whether it was aware of them or not. Hard to know, but yeah. So the I'm just looking back at the article here. So it was they say it was a tall and wide creature, even though it was hunched over. So I don't know what that was or who that was, but I would be curious to know again. It sounds like the writer there tried to find out more about possible explanations or that kind of thing for what they saw, but didn't really find much. So, but yeah, that's a neat one there. I'm guessing they didn't see the figure when they went back home. So, but yeah, that's cloaked figures are definitely a thing, and sometimes they appear to be human, and other times they don't. So, but yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say on that one. Just you never know what you're going to see out there. Apparently, moving on to the next one here. This one says, I believe in supernatural entities such as ghosts and fae due to the vastness of the world and the universe. I often see things out of the corners of my eyes, attributing them to bugs or cats, but sometimes I feel certain I've seen something supernatural. One experience I had happened in 2022 at my great-grandmother's house. I'm sorry, not house. Great-grandmother's funeral. And she was referred to apparently as GG. My great-grandmother was kind and loving. I can't do it, so I'm going to just go say the great-grandmother. Was a kind and loving person. And many family members attended her funeral. During the ceremony, I saw my great-grandmother comforting my aunt, hugging my dad, and eventually flying away with my great-grandfather, who had passed away earlier. The two of them changing into doves as they rose. The vision coincided with a pair of doves actually taking flight, which seemed symbolic. My father has mentioned a family history of witches, in quotation marks, which I interpret as a strong spiritual or supernatural presence. While discussing the experience with an aunt, a distant cousin approached and confirmed they also saw my great-grandmother at the funeral. This led to a conversation about other paranormal experiences, such as seeing shadows and ghosts. I sometimes wonder if these experiences are hallucinations due to an active imagination, but also I appreciate this unique ability to sense the supernatural. Despite feeling frightened at times, this experience with my great-grandmother is my best memory related to the paranormal. And that's where that one ends. So many accounts of similar sightings I've heard over the years. When it comes to funerals, I've heard that before. People and other accounts from people saying they saw the person that had passed away sort of moving around the room or just staying in one place and just smiling at everyone and giving off these comforting feelings to everyone. I've heard that several times over the years. It's still one of my favorites from a show that I had a little while back now, where the grandmother, this family went to a funeral for a distant relative, and the family didn't care for the way the officiant, I believe it's called, the person that conducted all the everything, the prayers and everything. They didn't care for the way that they did things, and they didn't care for the fact that this person didn't know the deceased individual at all, or the family at all. And so the grandmother told the rest of the family not to do the same thing, not to have someone officiate the funeral that they didn't know. And of course, when the day came, unexpectedly, they couldn't find anyone that they liked. And so they ended up getting a minister or something like that they didn't really know. And as this person was talking, the lid for the casket unexpectedly came down and basically closed on its own, and made the writer in that particular experience and their family, it startled them, but it also made them laugh because they felt like it was their relative, sort of their grandmother, just saying, "Hey, I'm still here," and making a joke out of their previous statement, like, "I told you not to do this way," but still meaning it in a loving way, nothing negative about the experience, really. So yeah, there's things that can happen, and it's really odd because it obviously it doesn't happen every time, but again, who knows how that works either? I don't know. Anyway, let me see here. I think I have one more. Yes, one more here to read. So this one says, I have strong intuition and a history of spiritual encounters. recently deepening my connection to my spiritual abilities. During a bedtime meditation, I asked my spirit guides for assistance. A beautiful woman appeared to me, and we had a warm, helpful conversation. The woman provided her full name and spelled it out when I asked. Curious, I asked if I could find her by searching online, and the woman hinted that it was possible. After our conversation, I did a web search on the name and found an obituary of a young woman who had died the previous month. The obituary included a picture, and it matched the woman I had just spoken to. The deceased woman lived in the US while I live in Europe, yet we shared similar hobbies and interests. I am eager to contact the woman again for more questions. I feel both confused and intrigued by the experience. Has anyone else had similar experiences and encounters? And that's where that one ends. At first I was reading that and I didn't know where they were going with that. And I'm not dismissing their sort of when they were talking about being sensitive and intuitive and talking with their guides. I do believe, there's plenty of people that report that they have conversations with other beings and that they are their guides and everything. I have no problem believing that is what happens for some people. So at first I didn't know if that was just going to be all that the post was going to be about, which is fine, but not something I would have shared if that was all it was in the show. But then it got to that part about this woman appearing and providing a name that the person then looked up after she had apparently appeared and vanished, and finding that person, at least someone that looked exactly like that person, and finding more out about them, and as far as they could tell, finding that person's obituary and finding out about them and everything, and confirming that it was that same person. Makes me wonder, do spirits, the spirits or souls or consciousness of people, some people, do they become guides for other people after they pass, after they move on from one level of reality to another? Do they have the choice to become guides, whether either temporarily or permanently? I don't know, but that's what this post online that I found made me wonder about, is how all that works, and just considering that possibility of, you don't hear that often, when unless it's someone that's sort of related to or already known to the person that sees them. But this is a total stranger to the person that wrote this post, and yet they were able to find this person that came to them, that appeared to them and vanished, even though they were in different parts of the world. So I thought that was a really amazing experience to have had, and so I wanted to share that because that's what the show is for. So thank you all for listening. Again, I'll be changing up sort of how many of each different episode type I do from now on each week. It's going to be more focused on these true paranormal stories from the web, but we will still keep the book reviews and the movie reviews, TV reviews, whatever, and the Haunted Places series. It's just going to be one of each of those episodes per week, and then the rest will be true paranormal stories from the web, because that's mostly what I'm interested in, and I hope you all enjoy those as well. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time on Salsidoparanormal. Take care.